Well, for more discussion on the two sessions and also the future of Hong Kong, we're joined by Professor Gong from the University of International Business and Economics in Beijing. Welcome back, Professor.
Thank you.
So I want to start with the two sessions wrapping up with that press conference by Premier Li. What have been the most notable developments to come out of this year's meetings?
Well, I think this time it differs from previous sessions, both in formality and substance. In terms of formality, it's the shortest session ever because of the coronavirus. In terms of substance, this session passed a very important piece of legislation regarding the national security in Hong Kong. It also doesn't set out a GDP target for this year in the government work report and endorse a whole series of fiscal policies and monetary policies to jumpstart the economy again. So this is a very significant development amidst the very critical time. And I think it's very good to hear Premier Li is quite confident to say that China's economy is going to squeeze out at least a positive GDP growth for this year.
And part of the way they'll do that is by China pledging this historic 4 trillion yuan, or nearly $560 billion, its largest economic recovery package ever for these struggling factories and merchants this year to rescue jobs and boost the economy. How significant is that?
Well, it's still quite significant, but certainly it's not going to be as large as the 2008-2009 financial stimulus package. I think the government is quite careful not to follow the same footsteps again last time in terms of overshooting the recovery. I think this time it's focusing on both taking care of the people who are in need and as well as making investments in what we call new infrastructure projects. That's the telecom infrastructure, that is the infrastructure for supporting alternative energy, automobiles, and these emerging new technology areas. All these things are supposed to create more jobs and also helping millions of small micro businesses that will have an immense impact on China's employment rate.
And obviously now I want to turn to the draft national security law for the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. We saw that it's moving ahead and it's causing concern, mostly from the West. We saw that Premier Li reiterated China's assurances about Hong Kong's autonomy, saying, quote, "We will still follow the principle of Hong Kong people governing Hong Kong." But what's your take on all the reactions that we're seeing so far?
Well, during the press conference, Premier Li's response to the Hong Kong issues is actually quite short and concise. In summary, he basically says that this is an issue that concerns China's sovereignty. National security is very important to China, and this is something that China is not going to compromise, and it doesn't violate the China's commitment with the British, in that joint declaration regarding China's one country, two system approach to Hong Kong. So this is really an issue that shouldn't raise concern in the West, in my opinion.
Now, if the U.S. were to treat Hong Kong like the mainland, as U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is recommending, what would that mean for Hong Kong's economy, especially amid not just the pandemic, but this ongoing trade conflict that already has tariffs in place?
Yeah, well, I think the most important and critical issue here is with respect to Hong Kong's independent trading status. I mean, I hope both sides will not go down that path. It's a quite dangerous path. It actually also works against American interests in Hong Kong. I mean, there are 70,000, reported there are 70,000 Americans living in Hong Kong, hundreds of companies operating there. And also, United States enjoys a very large trade surplus with Hong Kong. So I think, maintaining its autonomous status in the trade area with respect to the United States treatment of Hong Kong is extremely important and interesting in the self-interest of Washington. So I think, this is something that Washington will avoid doing. But in terms of other possible measures, I think it's something that China is ready to take. For example, the targeting individuals' visa requests, things like that. It's not much a big deal, but overall, I think it's an area that United States should keep in mind that keeping Hong Kong's autonomous status in trading area is in its self-interest.